Covering music-related content of all genres. If it filters through Eastern Texas, it's fair game. Y'all bring it. From Texarkana down to the coast and Dallas down to Houston and everything in between. We are ETX ROCKS! Hit the brakes. Cut. Hey y'all, Boston Chris here again with a brand new episode of the ETX ROCKS podcast. Man, we are super excited. This episode will be with our very first Christian music guest out of Cleveland, Texas. Her name is Angela Hudman. We're super excited to have her here. With a powerhouse voice that grabs your attention and a message that moves the soul, Angela is shaking up Christian music in the East Texas area. Angela's ministry, 1-1 Ministries, spreads the love of Christ through teaching, prayer, and worship. Her first album, which is titled Dark to Light, is available now, having been released on July 10th. Our very first Christian music guest, we are super proud to introduce her to y'all on ETX ROCKS, Miss Angela Hudman.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
I also have to make a shout out. We also have James Bogs on this episode with Phlipout Music Group. Of course, you might know a little bit about James. He's also been nominated a top 5 keyboardist of the year for the second year in a row for the East Texas Music Awards. So congratulations on that, Mr. Boggs.
Thank you, sir.
James and I have been friends for, I guess, about a year, about the same time Angela and I met. And I feel extremely blessed to know both of y'all. So I just wanted to put that in there before we started. And before we get to your career, I want to say, I believe I was the first one to hire you for a gig outside of church.
Yes.
Is that true?
That
yes,
is correct.
So,
and I'm very grateful for that.
Oh, you're very welcome. So tell me a little bit about your background. Where are you from? How'd you get, how did you get on the road that you're on now?
Well, I was born in a singing family. My entire family sings. My dad writes songs and music. They used to travel and sing and things like that. And as we grew up and, did our own things, I met my husband, Doug Hudman. And
shout out.
Yeah, shout out Doug Hudman. Best husband ever. Anyway, we've been married for 18 years now. We have 4 kids. But how I really got started was whenever I just wanted more of God.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I had a voice, and I was singing other people's music, and which is totally fine, but I wanted to have my own song.
Right.
And so I started praying and asking God, and I said, God, whatever I have to go through, whatever I have to do, I want to, whenever I walk in the room, I want people to be able to feel the power of God. I want people to know that you're in the room. I want them to feel your anointing whenever I come in. And that's really how everything started. Then God spoke to me, said, start listening to worship music. So I prayed because we were so poor, we had nothing. And I prayed and I said, God, if you'll give me the worship music, I'll listen to it. And the next Sunday, our worship pastor gave us a CD, and she said, I want you to learn these worship songs. These are the ones that we're going to be singing in church. And so that's how it really started, God showing me his faithfulness.
Yeah.
And in little things all throughout my life, he's shown his faithfulness, from a CD to giving us a home,
right?
Free of charge. All of these different things, God has been faithful to us. But there was a time in my life right after we had our son, Isaiah, and I went through some really difficult things, and I became suicidally depressed. And I had gone to a psychiatrist, and we took a test, and they said anything above like a 22 or 25 was clinically depressed. Anything.
Was this
that.
After you received God's message, or?
Yeah. Okay. And I think what happened was that I just kept pushing myself to be what God wanted me to be.
Right.
I was trying to push
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. I was trying to make it happen, and every door would slam in my face.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, I guess God doesn't want this to happen for me. I guess I'm just not good enough. I guess that, all these things, Satan kept lying to me about it. And I just finally figured that it was better for me not to be alive. Right. Because all I was a hindrance to everybody else around me.
Right.
So,
do you think you were lacking in faith? Or, was that part of it, or no?
That was a little part of it. Most of it was just being lied to and believing the lies, because we all tend to believe the lies of the enemy. Like, you want to be as good as you possibly can, but we're all flesh. We're all going to fall. We're all going to fall short of the glory of God. And what happens is, whenever we fall, we end up kicking ourselves while we're down.
And when we're in that position, we sometimes fail to notice signs that would be so apparent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And up until the time that I was going to commit suicide, I didn't see any signs. The only thing that I felt was, this is the right thing to do.
Right.
And the night that I was going to commit suicide, I led worship at the church.
Right.
And afterward, I left there, and my husband had stayed home, and I had gone to lead worship, and then I was going to come back home, and I said, okay, this is it. And I left, and I went into Cleveland. I stopped at Taco Bell and got my last meal, and I was like, dude, this
Taco
is
Bell,
all
really?
I'm going to eat.
Taco Bell,
really? I'm going to spend
Come on.
like $2 on a burrito. And
No.
I thought, well, that's pretty much all I'm worth anyway. And that's how low I was.
Right.
And so I remember driving and trying to, think through everything, and just, and there was like almost no thought process other than, this is going to happen. I'm going to take as many pills as I possibly can. I'm going to drive off in the woods somewhere, and they'll just find me when they find me. And in the middle of that, the radio just came on out of nowhere. And I just kind of looked over at the radio, and it was 10th Avenue North. I don't know if you're familiar with that band, but the song, it just started on the chorus, and it goes, one tear in the driving rain, one voice in a sea of pain. Could the maker of the stars hear the sound of my breaking heart?
Wow.
One life, it's all I am. Right now I can barely stand. So if you're everything you say you are, would you come close and hold my heart? And it goes on to talk about, questions without answers, but your promises remain with us. And I just started thinking, and I was thinking, okay, God, what are you trying to tell me? Because this has been the plan for a while now. I thought I was on the right road.
Right.
Here.
And you're working hard.
And I thought that suicide was the right road. I thought I was doing the right thing for my family, because I would see my husband do nothing but worry about me. I'd come home, and there'd be nothing but worry and fear in his eyes. My kids, they would cry, and always, all this thing. And I was so down that's what I thought was the right thing. And I just started thinking, and I looked in my rearview mirror, and my son Isaiah was in the back seat in his car seat. And he wasn't there before.
Wow.
He was at home with my husband. And I went, Isaiah. And as soon as I said that, God reminded me what his name means. And his name means God is my salvation. And at that moment, I thought, okay, God, obviously, maybe I'm on the wrong road here, So that started my recovery. And, I won't go into all of the other things. There's a lot of other things that happened that brought me to, turning around. I got myself home, and I talked to my husband about it, and we got help, and everything else. And ever since then, I've been, really working toward just being a better me,
right.
Being a better person.
Right.
And before that started, whenever I prayed, God, I will go through whatever I need to go through in order to be who you called me to be,
right.
in order to be able to see the power and anointing on my life. Now he has turned that around, and he said, now I can go to these people. How many people do you know that's been depressed, that's been suicidal? How many people do you know that's had nothing?
Yeah.
And, they need a God that is in control, that says, yes, you do have to go through this, but yes, there is a way out.
And not only that, but, God kind of stops you in your tracks a lot. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of times, if you follow me on Facebook, you know how busy I am and how many places I go, and there's nothing I'm not willing to do to further local music, legitimately. but the direction in that is always open-ended to me. You know, it's like, okay, where do I go this weekend? Or where do I go on Monday? Or where do I go Tuesday? Or whatever. And sometimes, you know, you're making decisions so quickly because you're so busy.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't realize you're making really big decisions on the fly because you're so busy. And then you're put into a position or a place where you're supposed to be because of whatever that reason might be.
Yeah.
It happened to me very recently with James in Carthage, where I had asked James to be in a video because he decided, him and his music group, you know, we're going to sponsor an award this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I made a promise to anybody who sponsored an award through me that I would do a promo video with them. So we drove out to Carthage. Of course, I live in Longview, so that's not a short drive. It's not like I'm ever in Carthage, which I'm not. And it just so happened that the place where we were going to film was locked up. So James said, hey, I'm going to take you to a place I know about. And I said, okay. He said, follow me. I said, all right. So we followed him down to the Footprints in the Sand monument out there that was being built at the time. It wasn't finished yet. And we go out there, and lo and behold, you know, we do our video. We're touring the area, whatever, by ourselves, just me, him, and my girlfriend Louise. And the sculptor drives up.
Wow.
Bob Harness, the guy who made it, the guy whose vision it was to make that a thing, literally drives up and says, hi, I'm Bob Harness. Who are you? And, of course, James and I are laughing like we are now. You know, we're like, no, you're not. You know?
That's awesome.
And so, you know, we stood out there and he was teaching us about, you know, the different things that happen by accident, like the acoustics and the echoes and things. I saw your video last night.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's remarkable, isn't it? I mean, but it's situations like that where it's like, man, God is walking with me.
Yeah.
He is absolutely here with me. And, you know, just doing these podcasts, you're probably my 16th or 17th guest. And I'm talking all walks of life, all different genres of music. Every single episode has some kind of connection in it to another episode.
Right. Yeah.
And to me, that's God. That's like so I'm sitting here talking to you, looking for that connection because I know it's coming. I just don't know what it's going to be.
Right.
You know, we recorded with Gene Watson, who everybody knows. You know, I mean, a Hall of Famer. You know. And I'm thinking, you know, I'm going to talk to Gene Watson. There's no way that there's going to be a connection between Gene Watson, a Hall of Famer, and all these other people that are just local musicians that I've talked to. And sure enough, my episode 4 guest, who's my father-in-law, Red Leone, played in Gene Watson's band in the 60s.
That's awesome.
That is cool.
So I find out about that, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to ask Gene about it. I'm going to put him on the spot. And sure enough, he remembers Red Leone from the 60s.
That's awesome.
So there's that connection in every single show.
There's always a connection. God always brings that
Right.
to you, that where you can see it.
Yeah.
Maybe after the fact or whatever, but then you're like, oh.
So Louise is always like, you know, she's in the background. She's the quiet one. She's my strength, you know. But I'm so busy and moving so quickly that I'll fail to recognize something like that sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. And after something will happen, we'll get back to the car and she'll be like, did you notice God today?
Yeah, that's good.
Awesome.
And I'll be like, what do you mean? Well, I'll give you an example. We recorded 3 episodes on June 30th. And we literally drove from Longview to Bullard to the studio to record these 3 episodes. Okay. Now, this was the same day of Katie Lynn Day, where America's Got Talent did their homecoming thing for Katie Lynn in Gun Barrel City. Now, Gun Barrel City is an hour and a half from Bullard. It's 3 hours from where I live, where we're sitting right now. Okay? But something led me to go to Gun Barrel City. After working 6 hours in the studio, something led me out there. Sure enough, I'm pulled up on stage, and I'm talking in front of 1,000 people and the AGT national cameras.
Wow.
Right.
So I get off that stage, and Louise was like, did you see God just then?
That's awesome.
So, you know, it's like we didn't go out there for that reason. You know, we went out there to support Katie Lynn because she's a good friend of ours.
Yeah.
But something like that happens in return for that support, and I believe 100% that's God letting me know, hey, you went to the right place today. Good job.
We kind of ran into that last night, actually. Tell us about what happened after you sang in Marshall.
Oh, well, we were hungry, and we were trying to find a place to eat that was open at the time, so we decided to go to Wendy's. And they went. And I made a big joke about, they didn't have anything but diet soda, and they didn't have any Caesar dressing, and they had no chicken to eat. Everything was like, y'all have nothing here, and I was just making a big joke out of it,
Right.
But then the manager came over there, and she was just talking to us, and a lot of times when someone just stands there and just starts striking up a conversation, whether there's something more to this, or for me at least, I know that that's what happens. God brings people into my life, and if they're in there for any period of time, I know there's a reason for it.
Right.
And so she comes up and she starts talking, and she's just talking about different things and everything, and Lord just prompted me, and I turned around and said, "Are you a Christian?" And she said, "Well, yes, ma'am, I am." And she was talking about her heart, and that it only works at 15% right now, and her husband's on disability and all this different kind of stuff. And so we got a chance to just stand up in the middle of Wendy's and pray with her, that God would heal her heart, that would heal her husband, and that she would have a healthy and prosperous life, So if we wouldn't have followed what God was prompting us to do, then we would have completely missed that.
Right.
We would have went to Denny's.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because I forget which time it was, but going to Bullard from here for our studio stuff for the podcast is always an adventure for us. The first time we went, my girlfriend had put it in the wrong city into the GPS.
Nice.
So she put the right address, but she put Tyler instead of Bullard, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and we're supposed to meet with a guy named Milo Deering, who is Don Henley's steel player.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's literally on world tour with Don Henley right now. So this is a legitimate, I need to be there on time kind of thing,
Yeah,
Yeah. So I'm driving, I'm thinking everything's great, I mean, it had been October since I'd been at Bushman's, for the awards. And I'm just like, all right, everything's going great. And then we hit red light, and then we hit another red light. And then we're hitting every red light. And I'm like, why? And I'm getting legitimately mad. I'm like, oh my God, Milo Deering is waiting for me at the studio, and the lights are like, no, he's not. Well, too bad. And so we end up over by Bergfield Park in Tyler instead of at Bushman's in Bullard. And I'm freaking out because I put it in the GPS and it's still 20 minutes. And I'm like, wow, I'm going to be like 30 minutes late for, my second episode with someone huge, and we're hitting every light again. And I'm just like, why? Why am I hitting every light? And, it's just weird because somebody or something is slowing your roll.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for it, and you may never know what that reason is, but it's so apparent when it's happening.
Right. Yeah.
It's like if I had ran one of those red lights, I probably would have hit green on all the rest of them. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's cool. So I think the coolest part of this story, and we're leading towards it now, and then this is where James comes in a little bit, is so you've decided you're going to sing. That's what you're going to do, and God has reached out to you again. And so you decide what you're going to do is put a song out on Facebook.
Right. I had been writing songs for a while. God would give me some, different songs and things, and I would sing them one or two times at church, and everybody would be like, "Oh, sing this song again, sing that song again," and I enjoy doing that, but it didn't feel right,
Right.
And I would get on the praise team at church, and that felt good, but it just wasn't what I knew that I was called to do. So anyway, I actually just kind of gave up. I just said, this is obviously not for me. I'm not going to be a singer. I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to be a teacher for the rest of my life, And
which wouldn't have been so bad, by the way.
No, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. I really enjoy teaching. I love, getting to know new kids every year and seeing all their potential, But my husband wouldn't give it up. He would not give up on me, even though I'd given up on myself.
Right.
And he said, no, you're going to follow your heart. You're going to follow your dreams. You're not going to give up on this. We're going to keep on going until, God it says that you're ready until it's time. You know, we've got to be instant, in season and out of season, and all this different kind of stuff. So he just kept on pushing me and everything, and I was like, okay. So I remember going to bed, and I just had this dream, and he brought back to my memory, because I have dreams a lot, or I'll have visions, I'll have all these different kind of things, and one thing that I have seen before is me traveling and speaking at an event and singing at this event, stuff like that. And so that I had that dream a long time ago. You know, I was like 21, 22 when I had that. And here I am, 35, 30,
Right.
34 at the time. And I had that dream again. And I woke up, and the Lord said, put one of your songs on Facebook this morning. And I thought, okay, yeah, might touch somebody.
Yeah, it won't hurt nothing.
They'll feel good, And of course, I got like 20 or 30 comments. Oh, sing it, girl, and everything else from my friends and stuff. And then, 20 minutes after I had put that on there, James contacted me, and we hadn't been in contact for. I mean, we were best friends. Went to church together when we were 14, 15. 14, 15 years old.
High school.
Yeah, and just the best of friends. And he always said, we're going to be in ministry together one day.
Right.
We're going to be in ministry together one day.
Well, one thing I want to say in this, and what touched me with this story, and I don't want to offend anybody, especially you two on this, but I mean, let's be honest, you're a small town girl.
Yeah.
Small town music group, and yet here you are.
Yeah.
I mean, there's quite a message in that.
Yeah.
It is.
What are the chances that something like that would end up hooking up?
Right.
I mean, you could see, maybe a small town girl gets picked up by a major label from throwing something on Facebook, but or the other way around. Maybe a major star gets signed by a local small town label, but you never see it where both, don't really have much of a following. And now you guys are building that together.
Right.
I think that is super cool.
It's awesome.
I didn't know that you guys had a connection prior to that, but even still, I mean, that's pretty cool.
Well, we had lost touch after I met my husband. I was 16 when we met, and we moved away. I hadn't heard from him since. It's been years and years and years. And then I just put that on there, and had you found us on Facebook?
I found y'all on Facebook, and y'all had your joint Facebook page, and so I friended them. It's like, oh, that's cool. And then I looked at kids and all that kind of stuff. Facebook's great.
Right.
I mean, I know you utilize it, and
some people call me the king of East Texas Facebook.
There you go.
Yeah.
But it's good to keep up with people and see what's going on in their life, and so. Anyways, scrolling through pictures and things like that, and then she was just there, part of the friends list that's that everybody has. But when that video posted, and I don't usually get any feed from her, but it came up on the feed, and I listened to that, and I went, oh yeah, Angela can sing. I remember now,
I remember now.
And we were just we had done ministry together. I mean, it was a lot of fun, but we had just started up Phlipout Music Group, and
so this would have been probably last year.
It was last year.
Yeah.
It was probably
because I know that when you and I met, we met through Miranda Faith because of Miranda's nomination, and of course I was all over the finalists last year, and James Bogs was one of the keyboardist finalists.
My alternate ego.
I did not realize that. I did not realize that was him.
Nobody voted for me because they didn't know who is that. James Bogs.
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't realize it was a typo until the night of the awards. I was like, you know what, Nathan? I bet you that's probably James Bogs. What do you think? He's like, he looks at it, he goes, oh, dang. So, in case anybody's heard of Miranda Faith won Video of the Year in 2015, which is one of those categories that receives a lot of votes.
Right.
It's one of the most, in my opinion, one of the most important categories, not only because of the content and visual and audio that you have to master, but it's also one of the most creative based awards that we give out. So like video, singer-songwriter, single, and album, to me, if I was an artist, those would be the ones I want to win.
Well, let me just say something in regards to that. Miranda, she's grown a lot. She's come a long way, and we're very proud of her. But the spearhead of that project, and it was done in a short amount of time with low resources, was through our production and our technical engineer and the other half of Phlipout Music Group. That was Jeremiah Peterson,
Right.
and he's just phenomenal at putting those things together. And I pretty much just played the keyboard and did my little cameo.
I just wanted to mention to our listeners that James and Jeremiah with Phlipout Music Group, they were the ones behind that video. They produced the video. James played keyboard in the video, and I'm sure it's on YouTube. It's Miranda Faith Oceans,
yes,
which of course is a cover, but it's beautifully done, and I highly suggest you check that out. At about that point when the nominations came out was when I decided I was going to do that benefit.
Right.
And I had put out an advertisement in my group about, we want to have all female singers at this breast cancer concert. It was a new concept. It had never been done around here, and the very first person who contacted me was James Bogs. He said, I have 2 dynamite Christian singers that would love to perform at this. And of course, at this time when I put something out like that, I'm inundated with just message after message. So, I'm talking to him, I'm talking to like 14 other people at the same time. But I kept coming back to this. I'm like, man, Christian would be great. He's like, I've got Miranda, and I've got somebody you probably haven't heard of yet, Angela Hudman. And I was like, yeah, you're right, I haven't heard of her. So I'm assuming right about then is when this happened with the Facebook stuff.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
So, just going deeper with, it's like, okay, Angela puts something on Facebook. James sees it. We're going to sign her. Now let's go, with this benefit.
Yeah.
And it all just lined up like that. It sounds like perfectly,
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
it's exactly what's happened.
Yeah.
And it's been that way for the past year.
And so now we're sitting here a year later, and we have our first album coming out, which is called Dark to Light.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming from the title of that has a lot to do with the depression that you went through.
It does, yeah.
So,
There are several songs on there that, like you were saying earlier, He's with us. One of the songs is You're With Me.
Nice.
So it's...
There's the connection.
As soon as you said that earlier, I thought, has he heard my songs? Have you?
I have not.
So, yeah, You're With Me is one of the songs on there. Another one is... what's the
Stand
other one?
With You.
Stand With You.
And these are all original songs?
All original.
And how many songs are on the album?
There's 6 on there.
Okay.
Yes.
It's an EP.
It's EP,
An EP.
yeah.
Our
Okay.
first
So,
EP.
I am so proud of Phlipout Music. I am so proud of James. I'm so proud of Jeremiah. I couldn't be more proud of them,
Well, speaking of that, we're going to take a real brief moment and we'll hear from Phlipout Music Group. This episode is brought to you by Phlipout Music Group. And Mr. James Boggs, take it away.
Hi, this is James Bogs with Phlipout Music Group. I, along with my partner Jeremiah Peterson, are providing Christian artists in our area the opportunity to get there and get the message out. We want to make sure that you have an opportunity to get your presence out on Facebook, out in the different venues and churches, and even open mics and jams in the wonderful East Texas area that we live in. We purpose to promote Christian music and live entertainment in East Texas.
Great, James, thank you. And you can check them out on Facebook at Phlipout Music Group, and I believe their website is phlipoutmg.com.
That's correct.
So we're back here with Angela. We've got the tears out of her eyes a little bit. It got a little verklempt in here for a minute.
Gosh.
You remember that on SNL?
Verklempt.
Talk amongst yourself.
Yes.
Topic? No. So I know, you got this new CD, but I also know that teaching is very important to you. And the last I saw on your Facebook is you were trying to do some kind of book drive for your class coming up for the 2016-2017 year.
Right. I'm actually...
First, tell us what you teach, and then tell us about the book drive.
Okay. Well, for the past 8 years, I have taught 11th grade English. I've tried to instill a passion for writing and love for reading in kids and everything else for the last 8 years. And now I've had the opportunity to move down to 7th grade. And I feel like it's going to be a great move for me, maybe catch kids a little bit earlier that, you're coming out of that love of reading, because once they hit like 3rd or 4th grade, something happens and they just don't want to read anymore.
Yeah.
And so
it's called technology.
Right. I think you're right. But, I want to try to instill that love for reading in them some more. I will be teaching 7th grade English at New Caney Middle School.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you still trying to get books from people? I know you were trying to get donations for that.
I was trying to get donations.
Right now you're thinking, wow, this guy doesn't miss anything.
No, you don't. At the moment, I'm not. I've got a lot of like bookshelves and things like that. So I was trying to get everything together so I could make a nice little
like
reading nook
Yeah.
for them, you know. And so I've got a lot of things together for that, and the classroom's coming together really nicely. And then I have a lot of books already that I'm going to put on the shelves. I did get a lot of books donated to me by the New Caney High School Library.
Great.
So that they were taking off their shelves to move in for new books and things like that. So that was very helpful.
Great.
So, yeah.
That's good news.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you, all the songs on your CD, we'll go back to your album, were they all written by you yourself, or?
Yes.
So musically, lyrically, 100% you.
Not 100% me on True Change. James, we were only going to put 5 songs on the CD, and you know, he did all music and everything else. We'd already gone through and sang them and everything, and he came up to me and he said, "Hey, I've got a little, what do you call it? Melody. I've got a little melody for you. I want you to work with. Just write a song to it if you can, you know." So he just lets me hear this little melody. I'm like, okay. So I take it home, and God started speaking to me about he had shown me this vision a while back of this man sleeping in bed, and all of a sudden this creature just comes up and just starts like trying to kill him, you know, and it was trying to sever the head from the body, and I realized that this was the body of Christ and the head was Jesus, and in his mind he was screaming, he was like, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, you know, fight, do something, you know, and that was the theme of True Change. And so he brought that back to me, so I just started playing around with it, and I came up with the words, and then I came back to James whenever we were coming into, I can't remember, something
We were recording.
We were recording? Mm-hmm. Okay, we were recording different stuff on the CD, and I said, hey, I want you to hear this. I said, this is the melody that you gave me, and I played it. He was like, whoa, what?
Yeah.
You know? And
I know we've heard a sneak peek out there at the monument that same day.
He heard Draw All Men to You.
Yeah, it was very, very powerful. And Louise looked at me and said, podcast, hello. James was like, what'd you say? Podcast? What podcast? So I think that's probably why you're sitting here.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, we didn't get to hear very much, but what we did hear, we'll definitely be getting a copy for sure.
Cool.
Awesome.
I want to know, you know, typically when an album comes out, you know, one or two things happens, and James, I know you'll know what I'm talking about. You know, I'm still learning a little bit about the production side of things, but in the old days, people would go on tour to sell records.
Right.
And now people make records so they can sell their tours. That's pretty much backwards. Are you seeing that kind of thing too?
Yes, it is. And a lot of that, because you can do a lot on social media and get in places and see people are looking to see and basically kind of interviewing the artist or whoever's touring through that media. And then the venues are like, oh, okay, well, you've got something legit. You've got something that's put out there and it's good quality. So, yeah, we want you to come to our business because you've sold so many records, you got so much of a following and all that kind of stuff, and it really kind of helps it. So you're right. It's
and it's just weird. We talked to so many musicians. Talked to Paul Bevo not too long ago. Who he put out 51 records in 6 years, and from 99 to 2006 or 5 or something like that. And I mean, we're talking Alice Cooper, Motley Crue, Ronnie James Dio, Black Label Society. We're talking major names.
Wow.
And you know, even back then, you know, it was the same kind of thing where, you know, you go on tour so your record does well, so the radio will play more of it. And now it's the other way around, even 10 years later, which is crazy to me, because it costs so much to make those things,
right?
You know, and I mean, just to go on tour and try to recoup that money. So I guess where I was heading with that was, what are the plans now that the album is out? Do you plan on touring? And if you are, what kind of venues and things are you planning on playing at? Is it just going to be churches, or are you going to?
No, I want to go and sing and, wherever I can go. We don't have anything really set up yet, other than, I'm going to be going to a kids camp in just a few weeks and going to be ministering there. And then there's other places that James has said, hey, I want you to go here. It's an open mic. This would be really good. Like Marshall last night was really fun, and just getting out there and practicing, and, because I am so new at this, that it's just, we don't have a tour or anything set up yet, but I want to. And then we are going to do a CD release party. I'm not sure the date on that yet.
You just took, like, those words just were in my head and you pulled them out. Right. Because I was going to make the suggestion, what's a better place for a CD release party than Footprints at the Sand?
Oh,
Footprints
cool.
in the Sand.
That would be nice.
Set up a PA out there.
That would be great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There's a few things that she's going to be doing. I know for sure she's been invited to do a women's conference, which is in Rusk, Texas, and I think that's going to be August 6th. Yeah. And then I know that we're doing a homecoming at the church that we grew up in together. Yeah. And that's going to be our first, I guess, CD release party there in that area. And then we'll have several different times and places that we'll be able to come and do that. But what we're looking at too right now, and I'll be honest with you, Boston, this is your events page, East Texas Friends at Events that you do,
yes, sir,
has helped us tremendously. So we'll know what's going on, and there's an open mic, and I'm like, hey, you want to come do this? This is going on. So that's kind of helped us too. And community events, any festivals and things like that we can get at and play, that would be an opportunity too. We just did a gospel explosion in Beckville. Didn't know it was going to happen. Just one church started sponsoring it, and the community got involved, and it was amazing. They gave free barbecue out. I
would make one other suggestion too that just popped into my head. The Gladewater Opry has a gospel night as well. I believe they have it's either a Friday gospel and Saturday non-gospel or vice versa. Well, and she could play on either night. Great. Yeah.
And I would encourage your venues, anybody that's, especially the ones that you work with, if anybody's listening, that's a restaurant, or have that facilities or coffee shops and stuff like that, and you're looking for, we want some family entertainment, before the late hour, and when the kids are going to be involved, stuff like that, but we still want some live music, good entertainment. There's tons of Christian artists out here that would love to get out there and play for.
Yeah, I agree with that. Folks. Definitely agree with that. So we're running a little long, so I'm going to give you an opportunity to let folks know where they can buy your album and tell them a little bit about where they can find Angela Hudman as well.
All right. You can buy the album on angelahudman.com, and it'll be on there for sale. You can find me on Facebook, Angela Hudman and 11 Ministries.
And spell that out, because
Angela, Angela Hudman, and the number 1, the &, and WON.
But spelled out. Number 1.
ONE and
right.
WON Ministries. And
we'll be selling them. You can contact me, and we'll be selling them at our Beckville address. It's P.O. Box 371. So if you want to mail in an order, if that's the only way that you communicate, then we'll definitely.
And will these be available digitally as well?
Yes, they will be.
And so all the regular places, Spotify, iTunes.
Not yet, but eventually it will be. We'll put out there where it's going to be available.
Okay, great. So Angela Hudman and 11 Ministries on Facebook. I know she would adore you if you clicked like on that page. So and share it. Once again, James Bogs is here with Phlipout Music Group. That's Phlipout Music Group on Facebook. I have to point out that that's PHLIP, not FLIP. So Phlipout with PH in front. Music Group on Facebook. FlipoutMG.com on the web. Once again, we want to thank you for tuning in to ETX Rocks. Remember that it's up to you to support your local music, and ETX rocks. Covering music-related content of all genres. If it filters through Eastern Texas, it's fair game. Y'all bring it. From Texarkana down to the coast and Dallas down to Houston and everything in between. We are ETX Rocks!